From here to the mouth of Chameau, which is about 5 miles, I'll be able to run the troughs, and that'll be pretty easy. But then going on in, I don't think it'll be as much of a dangerous ride. I just think it'll be a really slow ride. You just have to get on top of the crest of the wave and ride it. And if you ride it too fast, you're going to go into the next wave. But I bet it takes 2.5, 3 hours to get there, and it's only about 30 miles, so that's a good ride.
Great day for bass fishing, huh? We're on Tibbetts Point off Lake Ontario, the third day of the New York Invitational Bass Tournament, and someplace out there in those 5- and 6-foot rollers is Clark Wendlandt. He was yesterday's tournament leader. We know he has fish in the live well. The question is, can he make it back? He's allowed 3 hours in these rough seas, and let me tell you, a professional bass fisherman is no easy job. I'm Bob Cobb. We're the Bassmasters, and we'll be right back with the New York Invitational from Clayton, New York. The St. Lawrence River at Clayton, New York, the launch point for the Bassmaster New York Invitational Tournament. This is one tournament trail stop that pros look forward to fishing. The reason, smallmouth bass, the bronze battlers, the challenge of fishing the St. Lawrence and Lake Ontario. Today, we're going to follow the pros as they battle weather changes and learn the winning techniques for catching smallmouth in the fall. With smallmouth, when the weather's the worst, the bassing's often the best. Stay tuned, I'm Bob Cobb. The Bassmasters are coming right back from the smallmouth capital, Clayton, New York.
Bassmaster Tournament Trail returns to Clayton, New York, and the magical Thousand Islands area on the U.S.-Canadian border. Mid-September, a time when the smallmouth bass turn on, and 15-pound 5-bass daily tournament limits are expected. But the backwater bays of the St. Lawrence River harbor excellent largemouth bass fishing, as proven in the previous 10 Bass Anglers Sportsman Society's tournaments held here since 1977. Any tournament game plan must weigh the averages. Bigmouth bass will outweigh the smallmouth. However, in weather changes, the largemouth is the more fickle fish. For the smallmouth chaser, the bronzebacks can turn into pure gold at the end of a 3-day tournament. As was the case last time the BASS Trail dropped anchor here. Rick CLUNN weighed in 15 bass to win with 44 pounds 2 ounces, and they were all smallmouth. Today, his spinnerbait pattern is producing, but not at the same catch rate.
When I was here before, you could go down one stretch and catch 5 or 6, and then you turn around and go right back down, and so you could cut out your small ones real fast, and you could really start upgrading fast. Right now, you can't really do that. It takes time to catch them, you know, and it took me, up to 12 o'clock to even catch my limit today.
For sure, the weatherman can bear bad news for the smallmouth anglers, too. The worst possible forecast is for strong winds, northwest direction. This means the run from Clayton toward the mouth of the St. Lawrence and into Lake Ontario will be a let's make that back-breaking trip. But if you've located schools of smallmouth feeding on alewives on the rocky shoals and rock piles in places like Chameau Bay, that's where the pros go, even when the waves and rollers reach 6 to 8 feet. Knowing how to run a bass boat in rough seas is something that Michigan's Kevin VANDAM has perfected. He's grown up fishing the big waters of the Great Lakes.
The real key to running a boat in rough water is just being real patient and taking your time. You can't run around with your nose trimmed down like if you're going to go across boat wakes and that, because you'll just go right through those big waves. The way I like to drive big waves is I just analyze the direction they're coming from and try never to go directly into them. I like to tack back and forth much like a sailor would. Just hit them at a quartering angle and just take your time, use the trim a little bit, get the bow up. Try to look far out in front of the boat, 50, 75 yards, and look for those bigger little groups of waves so you can avoid them. I like to steer around them. If I want to go around some waves, I'll just drive down a trough and get around 2 or 3 big ones, and then I'll, tack back into the waves and just kind of, quarter and angle them. If you just take your time, you're going to keep a lot drier and you're going to be a lot safer.
The former Bass Angler of the Year knows smallmouth bass, too. How Kevin works a suspending bomber long a sinking jerkbait over scattered milfoil grass on rocky shoals will be a key to his success in this tournament. You Bassmasters at home might want to file Kevin's tournament tactic away for future use.
This is a special lure that I designed for bomber that works really good on these smallmouth. It's a suspending Pro Autograph Series long A, and the real key to it is the internal weight system in it. That it makes it neutral buoyant, but the bait itself, because it's weighted over the whole body of the lure, it really has a lot of side-to-side action. And when you jerk it, it really moves a lot, almost like a Zara spook. And for smallmouth, that's the most important thing, is to give it a real erratic action. When you're going to work a jerkbait, the key thing to remember is after you jerk it a couple of times, make sure that there's slack in the line. That allows the bait to pause out there in the water, and it's that real stop-and-go erratic action that triggers these smallmouth to bite. Just get that rod tip pointing back at the lure and throw that slack in the line. And you notice how hard I'm jerking it. The harder you jerk it, the more that bait's going to dance back and forth, and that's what it takes to get those fish to come out of deep water to come up and hit that lure.
Water conditions are extremely clear in the St. Lawrence River and the bays off Lake Ontario. With the lack of turbidity, the grass lines have moved out deeper. Credit the influx of a tiny shellfish, the zebra mussel, with its filtering out the plankton in the water that normally makes it murky. Among fishery folks, the jury is still divided as to the zebra mussel's long-term effect on the food chain in the Great Lakes. But Bassmasters at the New York Eastern Invitational, such as Shaw Grigsby of Florida, a noted sight fishing expert, had praise for the clear water visibility.
The whole time we've been here, we've been waiting for it to get calm to where I could see fish. I mean, that's all I've been doing. I said, let me see the fish one day. I'm loving life, I'm telling you that.
Yesterday, the first round of the tournament, wind and overcast conditions had the smallmouth active and feeding on rocky, shallow shoals. Shaw and his partner, Terry Boyd of Ohio, have adjusted to today's calm bluebird weather.
And what we've done is backed out with the fish. The fish have moved out, and they're in isolated grass clumps. So it's not like a defined line. It's just little clumpy spots of grass with good rock in between it. And the smallmouth will just hold on them. And that's what we're doing. We're targeting them, and we had to go to a much more subtle presentation. With clouds and a lot of wind, you can rip a spinnerbait and throw a lot of different baits because they're real aggressive. But when they slow down like this and it gets, like I said, that high pressure, you need to more finesse them. So a grub would be a good choice and a jerk bait. And we're using suspending jerk baits, and they just barely float, and the fish are just swimming up on them and sucking them down.
There he is. Oh, there's 4, 5, 6 of them. Stop and get it. Oh, my goodness. There's a dozen of them in there. There's a big one on mine. Get your grub, get the grub, get the grub, get the grub. There's a big one on mine. Right there. See my flash? Drop it. There was a good one on it right there. Okay. That'll cull one of those little ones real easy, I think. But that was a 3-pounder with him right there. Man, when you pulled up, you had... Is that a good one?
Stay tuned. The Bassmasters are coming right back with more tips and tactics from the pros on how to catch smallmouth bass. But right now, a tip of the hat by Ray Scott to our Bassmaster Casting Kid of the Week.
Derek Schreiber of Cincinnati, Ohio is our special casting kid of the week. Remember that name, Derek Schreiber. He's 14 years old, in the 9th grade, and has his sights set on being a professional bass fisherman. He's sharpening his skill at flipping, pitching, and casting as a National Casting Kids 2-time finalist. Derek won the 1994 title in the 11 to 14 age group. Derek's biggest moment in fishing is a 25-pound shovel-bill catfish on a rod and reel. For his efforts, a big Bassmaster salute to my buddy Derek Schreiber of Cincinnati, Ohio, our Bassmaster Casting Kid of the Week.
Looks like you did better, though.
From the looks of the bags of bass coming into the Day 2 weigh-in of the Bassmaster New York Invitational, calm weather conditions have helped. The bassers venturing to Lake Ontario were able to reach their spots, as evident by the numbers of smallmouth bass being checked in. Biggest bag of the day and the tournament, 16 pounds, weighed in by Tom Mann Jr. of Georgia. He jumps from 36th place into strong contention for the $35,000 top payoff. However, Kevin VANDAM, with a 5 bass limit and 13 pounds 11 ounces, temporarily moves on top with a 3-ounce lead. But Davey Height of South Carolina charges from 28th place with a 15-pound 15-ounce creel of smallmouth. Height anchors his big string with a 4-pound 8-ounce smallie and a 2-day score of 26 pounds 8 ounces. However, Clark Wendelin of College Station, Texas, pulls ahead of the pack with 27 pounds 3 ounces. Another solid 5 bass limit of 15 pounds 4 ounces lifts Clark from 12th place into the lead, but not by much, only 11 ounces.
You're averaging 3 pounds today on smallmouth. Can you do it tomorrow?
I don't know. It's a little bit tougher on me today. I didn't get as many bites. The bites ended up being a little bit bigger, but just go out and struggle with it again tomorrow and hope I can get the bigger bites.
The final round, Day 3, a howling wind, 20 to 30 miles per hour. Tournament leader Clark Wendelin's got his wish, but the south-southwest direction is going to mean trouble. Clark's fishing a shallow 3 to 6 foot deep rocky flat behind Horse Island at the mouth of the Black River, and the full force of the strong winds builds big waves from Lake Ontario.
This is just a big grass flat. Really, it doesn't really have very much grass on it. It's basically got some little clumps that have some small boulders mixed with grass in it, and the rest of it looks like just one big rock. I don't know if it's rock or sand, but it's kind of a bright green color, and the rest of it's a dark color. What you want to cast at's a dark color, and those smallmouth just seem to come off these little spots. I'm throwing about a 1/2 ounce bulldog spinnerbait. It's got a clear skirt and a trailer hook, and I've caught quite a few of the fish I've caught on the trailer hook. The water's so clear, they know they want it, but they get up close to it, and I guess they shy away a little bit, and they just swipe at it. So the trailer hooks help a bunch.
Over in Shawmo Bay, Davey Height is jerking a Norman's Rippin' Rick suspending plug. This is similar to other sinking jerkbaits being fished for smallmouth in the tournament. But with this lure, Davey adds water to make it suspend at various depths. Today, the added water makes it easier to cast in the wind. Now, watch what happens. A smallmouth follows the lure out of a clump of grass, but then turns away. Davey sees the bass and makes a quick lure change. His other rod is rigged with a smoke-colored grub. Bingo! The quick reaction with a smaller lure triggered the bite. Davey's quick thinking pays off. But an interesting sidebar to the catch is that tournament leader Clark Wendelin tipped him off to the 1-2 lure punch.
You know, yesterday when it was calm, you could throw a grub back and catch them, but you can't keep up with them now. Some of them I just follow. I'd get a bite and see the fish go back down and start throwing back at him and take 5, 6, 7 casts, and finally they'd bite it.
Trying to fish and control the boat in these conditions is almost impossible. But Kevin VANDAM uses a canvas sea anchor or drift sock that's a handy accessory for any bass boat.
Boat control was real difficult in this tournament, and one of the things that really helped me out a lot was this sea anchor. All it is it's a big parachute type deal that has a big opening on one end and a real small opening on the other, and it forces the water through that small hole, and it really slows down your boat. What you need to do, though, is use a swivel on the rope that you tie it to, because this will spin to keep it from twisting. And I just clip it on my back here, and then I just wrap the rope around this one cleat. And what that does by putting it on that side cleat is it tilts the boat at an angle as you make your drift, and it helps so both people in the boat can make good casts to the structure. If I want it tilted the other way, I just put it on the other side. It'll really help you out a lot when it's real windy to work the structure.
Kevin's got another ace up his sleeve. He's not depending on seeing the underwater rock piles and targets. In practice, VANDAM pinpointed the structure and recorded the exact locations in his Lowrance Global Map 2000 GPS system. He can find his fishing spots with the GPS unit in the windswept bay without landmarks or the need to line up the objects on the shoreline.
And with my GPS, it'd get me right on top of those spots every time. And that's all I did, is I made short little drifts out there in the wind over these little 50-yard areas. And without that GPS, I could have never done it. You know, every time I'd get done with the drift, I'd pull back up there to my waypoint and drift right back down through the same exact little spot each time. And I caught those fish just out of those little areas where everybody else was just drifting across the whole flat and really not knowing where they were throwing. I knew exactly where every single spot that I was going to fish was at.
Stay tuned. The Bassmasters are coming right back with the final New York Invitational weigh-in and the champions pros pointer on spinnerbait fishing for smallmouth bass. Now it's time for Bass Mail, where you send in questions for the pros. Jerry Dixon from Tulsa, Oklahoma asks Arkansas pro Ron Sheffield, what can I do to prevent short strikes on smaller spinnerbaits?
Jerry, let me give you a small tip that'll help you out. I take a little bitty trailer hook and insert onto the spinnerbait main hook to start with, and take a little section of rubber band and just poke a hole through it and run it right on down onto your main hook so it holds the trailer hook on like so. Just because you have to downsize your spinnerbait doesn't mean that you can't downsize your trailer hook also. Jerry, if you'll try this, I think it'll help you catch a lot more fish.
Send your bassin questions to Bass Mail, Post Office Box 140430, Dallas, Texas 75214. After almost 3 hours of nerve-grinding, white-knuckle boat handling in 6-foot waves from near Henderson Bay to Safe Harbor at the French Creek Marina, it's a tight-lipped Clark Wendelant that checks in for the final weigh-in. Yesterday's New York Invitational leader has only 3 bass, 2 short of the limit.
6 pounds, 2 ounces. Clark, would you show up a couple of fish? Now, there's lots of riding on these fish right here, $35,000. Now, we don't know what the people behind him's done, but that keeps him in the lead.
But any creel less than a 5 bass limit won't make the big money today. Davey Height's 10-pound, 13-ounce limit puts him in the hot seat. The South Carolina pro leads with 37 pounds, 5 ounces. Tom Mann Jr. of Georgia needs 11 pounds, 6 ounces to claim the lead. Almost. Tom's 5 ounces light, but moves into second place worth $22,000. Kevin VANDAM of Michigan started this morning in 3rd place. He's got a chance to catch Davey Height.
And he has blown the top off of it. 15 pounds, 11 ounces. He's ahead in the tournament. Hold up some fish, Kevin VANDAM.
I knew the area that I'm fishing doesn't have a lot of big fish. You can just see they're all carbon copies, 3-pounders or whatever. And I knew that the only way I could win this tournament is if the wind was to blow. So I prayed for wind last night. And by golly, I think I got a little more than what I needed. And it was hard today because, the drifts I had to make were quite short to stay just in those zones. But that's what we did. We just kept drifting over these little key spots. We, just drive out to my best spot. By the way, was number 13 on my GPS, lucky 13. So
the final standings. Kevin VANDAM with 41 pounds, 14 ounces, a winning margin of over 4 pounds. Davey Height finishes with runner-up honors, followed by Tom Mann Jr., Mike Lanier of North Carolina, and Robert Tucker of Texas, all with 15 bass tournament limits. Defending champion Rick CLUNN ranks 7th, and Clark Wendelant drops to an 8th place tie. For sure, a good game plan for catching smallmouth bass pays off.
Smallmouth are totally different than a largemouth. They're a lot more aggressive in their nature. Because of that aggressive nature, you can use lures to really trigger that out of it. And the 2 best lures that I use to catch smallmouth with are a jerkbait and a burning a spinnerbait. And the key thing is the speed and an erratic action. Even with a spinnerbait, just a straight cast and retrieve doesn't catch money. You got to, jerk it and twitch it and flutter it and do a lot of different things with it. Smallmouth like that.
Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler Rugged Wear, geared for the outdoors.
In this tournament, I used a spinnerbait, a real heavy version with smaller blades on it, burning it over deeper water to catch a lot of my bigger smallmouth. A little tip that I can show you, so you don't have to buy a lot of new spinnerbaits like I've got a whole box full right here. You can take a regular, like this is a 1/2 ounce Strike King Pro model, and you get rubber core egg sinkers, little sinkers, and take the rubber out of them and just slide them on the hook. Then take a pair of pliers and crimp them down, and that way you can add weight to your spinnerbait, and that helps the bait stay down so you can reel it faster without it keeping to the top. Use this little tip right here, and it'll save you a lot of money, and it'll catch you a lot more smallmouth.
And techniques on how the pros catch bass. Follow the Bassmasters next week to the James River and the Virginia Top 100 tournament. Figuring out a tidal river is an all different game plan. Join us to learn why. See you all next week.